What's going on, everybody? So I'm sure many of you have wondered what's going on with the hell-camino project. We've been kind of at a standstill with this whole COVID-19 thing, but we are still pressing forward. I've got some news. So I got to crawling around underneath this hell-camino, and whoever did the work on this must have been a blind, drunk redneck who didn't know how to weld, let alone know what type of material to use on a truck or on a build like this. So it's pretty dangerous underneath there. I'm not too excited about what I've seen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a K5 Blazer frame swap. So I went out and I bought from this old tweaker dude a K5 Blazer for fairly cheap. It didn't rob my bank or anything. But the problem with the K5 Blazer is the wheelbase is not as long as old girl here. So the hell-camino wheelbase from center to center is about 117. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take that K5 Blazer frame and we're going to have to extend it. A lot of guys that I've read extend on the back, but I don't see the point in that because you still need the suspension in the same exact spots, front and rear. The best way that I see to be able to do this logically is to chop it right at the center point. So on the K5 Blazer, I'm going to chop it there. I'm going to make a box frame. I'm going to extend the frame the 12 plus inches that I need to extend it for it to work because it's only like at 105 or so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sleeve it in. We're going to weld it out. We're going to notch it and weld it some more. That way it's actually going to be stronger than the original frame on the K5 Blazer. So this one's got a very, very nice frame. It's been sitting for a while. So we do have to do a lot of things in order to make it, I guess, function properly the way I want and intend it to do so. So I've actually spent a lot of time and a lot of money on this hell-camino the way she sits now. But I never really took the time until this COVID-19 thing to crawl underneath this monster and really see what's going on. So far, we've changed all the seals, the gaskets, the fluids. We've pretty much opened her up, took the top end off, looked at everything, made sure everything was copacetic. She runs great, guys. It's a 327 small block V8 with the turbo 350 trans and a mild cam. It's not super impressive, but it definitely makes these wheels turn and gets the job done. I've decided not to use the 350 V8 out of the K5. I'm going to power plant my powertrain into that. But what we're going to do is we're going to take apart that other frame. We're going to extend it. And then I'm going to actually take my axles, which are the same Dana 40s, off of my hell-camino. And they're the same on the K5 Blazer. So because a lot of guys use the K5 stuff on these lifted hell-caminos. I still have four-wheel drive. I'm going to take my axles and I'm just going to implement their steering and their suspension onto the hell-camino project. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing looking at the way the hell-camino sits and how the steering actually, how it does and what it looks like under here. These guys, the drag link bar, the stabilizer, the sway bar, setup, the steering setup, even the pitman arm. These guys took two tie rod ends, the threaded sides, flipped them, welded them together, and that's kind of how they helped implement the steering. So when you lift these things, they usually come with like a lifted J-arm type of setup to account for the lift that you put on these things for the steering. But these guys, being the backyard engineers that they were, decided they were like, we can kind of just make this here, grab this. They were the flat strap kings, and let me tell you guys, so it looks good from far, right? Everybody loves this thing, but let me tell you, she's far from good. These guys were the flat strap kings, as you can see on the frame there. They didn't even cut off that bracket on the other side where they decided to cut. They took an acetylene torch, and the whole underside of the frame has a big old gash in it. Obviously, this is not the steering setup that one would want. They took a pitman arm, and obviously, I don't know how they extended it, but they extended it. And you see the back-to-back tie rod ends welded together in order to come up with the steering. Steering sucks on this thing, guys. She's really loose. At 45 to 60, she gets really sketchy down the road. I don't feel safe in it, so we're just going to go ahead and redo the whole entire thing. And we're going to call our friends over at Skyjacker and get a Skyjacker suspension. Just kind of wanted to update you guys on the old hell-camino project here. The body's great, straight. It's got a couple little dings out of it here and there. Nothing too major. I'm going to have a paintless dent guy come and do that before we have it wrapped. I don't know what kind of artist in here started flinging the paint. This is some South Carolina redneck, I don't even know what to call it. It's hideous and I don't like it. They just like threw paint in there, red and white paint. There's a lot of things that the old owner liked that I specifically didn't like. But basically, I just kind of wanted to give you guys all that were wanting to know where this project had an update. It's kind of been sitting. The only thing we've really done to it, besides all of the fluids and seals and gaskets and things like that, and upgraded parts that we've needed along the way, like master cylinders and brake boosters and canisters and things, are like the tires and wheels. Although we do have a lot of awesome backers that are wanting to be a part of this project. Again, like I mentioned before, we're going to do some Skyjacker parts and components that'll get us a lift and lift it right. Of course, it's the leaf spring setup. I don't want to go too crazy and do no 4-link or anything like that. I mean, maybe later on down the road, but for now, we just want to get this thing in the air and we want it to be safe. That's the number one goal here so far. So that's the update on the El Camino project. Stay tuned for more.